I know this is the graveyard shift, so thank you to those who are still here, and I'll try and keep it short and sweet. The conference, this conference is really inspiring. I love going to impact investment conferences. It brings to mind me a Greek proverb that goes like this. It says, a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they know they will not sit. And impact investors are a little bit like that. They plant trees, they do things of which they don't really always see the returns for themselves. Although I must say I was glad to hear that some old men's trees are growing quite fast and there is a bit of shade that they're enjoying. And Dr. Reichmuth actually gave a nice introduction for what I'm going to talk about, because it goes a little bit back earlier in the pipeline. I'm standing in front of an audience that is converted. And the project that we work on is really to try and get business students to be convinced that they should move into this area, and particularly into this area where they can make a difference to poor people's lives. Investment in low-income regions. So before I talk about the project, maybe just to give you a sense of what it is that we do, I'm at UNCTAD's Investment and Enterprise Division. So we're a policy practice center, and we focus on development issues through the lens of investment and enterprise. So all aspects of investment and enterprise, we have several programs, and our work is sort of built on three pillars that are mutually reinforcive. We do research and policy analysis work, which then builds onto technical analysis, technical assistance in the field, mostly in LDCs and low-income regions. And then we also try and build that to do consensus building at the multilateral level between UN member states on investment and enterprise-related issues, particularly investment where there's interesting things happening with investment policy. Now, our work over the past year has mostly been informed by the ongoing process of building the post-2015 development agenda and its related set of sustainable development goals. And so our flagship product, the World Investment Report last year in 2014, was on this topic, and it came up with an action plan for investing in the Sustainable Development Goals. And I can actually give you numbers about the needs out there from our investment report. The total investment need in SDG sectors in the developing world over the period 2015 to 2030, which is the period that covers the post-2015 development agenda, is $3.9 trillion. The actual investment at the moment is $1.4 trillion. So there's a shortfall of about $2.5 trillion that needs to be plugged. And it's quite clear, I think perhaps the Millennium Development Goals were an interesting set of targets. But I think what was maybe not thought through was, how do you deliver on this? You have to have the private sector involved. In LDCs alone, the investment need is $250 billion a year. So it's quite clear that you have to have good managers on the ground. But business schools that develop these skills are mostly based in developed countries. And it's clear that we need to get investors into LDCs to bring funds and skills. But the reality is 2% of global FDI flows at the moment go to LDCs. They're simply not. LDCs, low-income regions, low-income communities are simply not really on the radar screen of investors. And we believe that the problem is largely an educational one. Conventional business school programs focus their students' attention on the 1 billion market, the 1 billion people market. What about the 6 billion? From our technical assistance work in the field, we also think that some of the skills that are put out there by the business schools are not really a good match for the needs in developing countries. They're not really relevant to developing countries. So you have students who come out with highly sophisticated quantitative skills, quantitative method skills, but they come to countries that actually don't even have data gathering capacity. Or there are complex accounting skills that are taught. And then they go to a developing country and most of the suppliers are informal. They don't even do accounting. So how do you match these things up? There's a mismatch. So thinking of this, we realized that the intervention really should be at the education level. And we looked at what it is that we can do to support business schools, to raise awareness among their students about the needs in LDCs and in poor markets, and to teach them the skills that would equip them to go to these places and actually make a difference. And we constituted a working group and got some people together from the Global Business Schools Network, the Global Alliance in Management Education, SIMS, some of you may know them, and some academic experts, and we got them together at a meeting and we worked out a sort of a need for change along 3 axes. And the first is that you need new courses that speak specifically to the issue of impact, social enterprise courses, impact investment courses, investment in social sectors like education and health. But new courses are not enough. The second need is to look into existing core courses if you want to be transformative and introduce an element of impact needs into that. The third component is teaching methods and new teaching materials that are context specific, because you get a lot of training and teaching that takes the ideas of the traditional conventional programs and just replicate them in the developing world. And it's what the World Bank did in the 70s. You don't export the same solutions to different countries. We're working, for instance, with the Case Center, which is a repository of case studies. And they crunched the numbers for us, looked at their program, their collection of cases, and found that less than 10% of their cases are actually based on alternative business models, or based in LDCs, or even for that matter, developing countries. So you need to build out that package and have case study materials that is more relevant to countries where these skills are needed. So then we have a last thing that we identified that we think is actually critically important, and that is practical experience. Internships are a central component of business education programs, but most internships take place in conventional frameworks once again. Students go to banks or to multinationals and they get their experience there, or they do it in their home country or in countries that are culturally close to home. What you need to do is you need to get them out of their comfort zone and put them in developing country contexts and expose them on the ground to the reality so that they can learn for themselves what are the needs. So, considering all of that, what is it that we decided to do? We created a network called the Business Schools for Impact Network, and an online platform which looks like that. We basically encourage business educators, students, impact practitioners, impact investors to come together, share ideas. We want business educators to share course modules that speaks to this theme, put it there, and we want and case studies that are relevant, and we want to have this available in open source so that different business schools can come and pick and take what they need and build it into their program so that we can start proliferating these elements and in that way start creating a change. And then the second component that we have is we have started building up an internship program, which is really very exciting. We have just launched our pilot summer internship program, and we have internships in literally all over the world. 20 internships in about 12 countries, in Latin America, in Africa, and in Asia, that we build together with different partners. So what we want you to do, if you are interested in what you just heard, we would encourage you to go and have a look at the network, to maybe join it, to tell people, and to get back to us and tell us what more we can do to really make this thing work, and in this way try and get impact investment going from the educational side. Thanks very much for this opportunity.